Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our next installment of the STEAM Career Exploration Speaker Series. And today we have Mr. Joseph Hernandez joining us. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and talk about what he does for a living. Thanks. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rose, for having me. I'm very happy to be here. I will start with just a brief synopsis of where I grew up, what I did to get to where I am. First and foremost, I'm a professional dance artist, choreographer, educator, photographer, just a big old hodgepodge of different artistic disciplines. So I grew up in Mount Prospect, Arlington Heights, northwest suburbs of Chicago. And I was always a very athletic, physical kid growing up. I played a lot of football, a lot of soccer, basketball, rollerblading, skateboarding, you name it. So I was always very active. I did martial arts for about 3 or 4 years. And then my high school offered dance courses. So I decided to do that just to try something different, a little bit more explorative. And I ended up really loving it. And I just kind of fell in love with dance from there. And I just kept pursuing it and trying to take as many classes as I could, doing my research. And I ended up going to college for it. And I got my Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree in dance from Western Michigan University. And after that, I danced professionally in San Francisco, New York City, Chicago, Denver, Boise, and a lot of different freelance gigs that have brought me across the globe. And during that time, I also had breaks from my dance career, and I always had a passion for photography. And I took my first photography classes in high school. We had a dark room where you develop your film, very old school, and I loved that. And I always kept photography as a hobby. And when I was living in New York City, it's very expensive. So I ended up starting my small photography business. And that was one way that I helped pay rent and just kind of cover the other expenses, which has helped me through the rest of my career. And in addition to that, I also need to film and photograph my own works for future presentations and grants and commissions and things like that. So that's been a huge asset for me to be able to present myself and get more work. So yeah, I'm currently living in Chicago. I do a lot of opera and Broadway as of lately. I was most recently in West Side Story and doing several different operas at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. And right now, during COVID, things are a little bit slower. So I'm looking at different choreographic commissions, making commissions for universities, different professional dance companies, and on top of that, filming things. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Do you want to explain what a commission is?
Yes, commission is basically, say your school wants to have me come in to choreograph, to make a dance for you. That would be a commission essentially. So a contractual agreement where I come in and I build an original dance work for dancers.
So I was going to ask you how you're doing with COVID, if you were performing and the theaters and the districts downtown are closed, how that was affecting you. But it sounds like you've made some ways around it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been challenging, but as an artist, you always learn to be resourceful. So it's pretty much still a full-time job where I'm looking for different opportunities and grant opportunities, and still creating and training, even though I'm not out in the world doing the same thing. I can still do it from home.
Awesome. I think Ms. Barry might have a question.
Hi, Joseph. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you. So good to see you.
To speak with us today. Mr. Hernandez and I actually went to high school together, so it was very, very cool to see him become a real professional dancer and photographer and choreographer. We have so many students at West Park who are interested in photography. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you went from, it just being a passion to it being something that you were able to pay your rent with. Like, what were the steps you had to take to get there?
Yeah, I think one of the big ways was YouTube. So I learned a lot of the basics in the courses that I took in high school. We had, I think it was two or three photo courses. So you learn about shutter speed, aperture, ISO values, and composition, all those kinds of things. And so once you just start shooting with a camera, you kind of get the idea for how it works, and then you can start exploring with different techniques and compositions. Are you shooting in black and white? Are you shooting in color? What kind of editing programs are you using? Are you using presets? What are the different values that you're modifying? And there are probably tens of thousands of videos on YouTube, world famous vloggers that give you the step-by-step for how to do this. And you don't always have to have the nicest software, the nicest gear. A lot of the times, the cheapest, most easily accessible things that you have are the things that can progress you to the next level. And then you just keep rising from there. And then eventually you could get the really nice gear. But to get started, you don't need the fanciest things. And I think there's just so much information out there for free that we can all utilize. And it just takes the initiative of sitting down and looking those things up and then taking it to heart.
Free is our favorite price over here, so that's good to know. We're also wondering in 314, our homeroom, how do you divide your time? Since you're a dancer and a choreographer and a photographer, how do you plan your time so that you have enough time to do all those things?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that I learned very rigorously about was time management when I was at university. There were so many classes I was taking, so many requirements that I had to do. So having a planner, having your calendar just filled so you understand this slot is for photography, this slot is for dancing, this is for choreography. So really just knowing how to partition and organize your days. And sometimes it comes down to deadlines. So some things will, there's a longer stretch of time. I'll have 3 weeks to get it done. And then other things, it's a quicker turnaround, so like a couple days. So things might have to shift, but just understanding how to prioritize. And that's definitely a skill that comes over time, understanding, okay, this needs a little bit more time. This I can get done in a couple of hours. So definitely calendars, planners. I'm old school. I like to write things down on top of like my calendar on my phone. So just whatever you can do to stay organized, to be on top of things and to be as professional as possible, that will help serve you in the long run and get you more jobs and get more things done.
We have also been talking about in homeroom about how when we have a very strong emotion, like maybe when we're very nervous or when we're very excited, it makes our heartbeat faster or it makes us get hot. And so we were wondering, what strategies do you have to calm yourself down before a big performance? Or do you even get nervous before big performances? Or is it just like you've done it a million times?
It definitely varies for me. Ironically, working in some of the largest theaters. So I think I used to perform for about 4,000 people at the Metropolitan Opera House. And it sounds really crazy, but to be honest, I didn't get nervous for those performances. I think it's because there's such so much space between you and the audience that you don't have that connection. But then sometimes when it's a smaller house theater of like 100 people and you can see your friend in the second row and your mom is in the fourth row, those are the kinds of things that make you a little bit more nervous. So when those things happen, when those moments happen, I always remind myself to take deep breaths. Sometimes I'll do box breathing, which is 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and just kind of keep repeating that breathing pattern. And I also am a big fan of meditation. There's an excellent book and app by Andrew Pudukombe, I believe is his name. And it's just called Headspace. And it's a very easy, accessible way to meditate that doesn't take up so much time. It's just small little bits every day of really honing in on mindfulness and really paying attention to all of the things in your day, whether they're small or big. So that's been one of the big things for me, is just learning how to breathe more efficiently, and taking a little bit of time for myself to just be inside my body in the present moment.
Thank you. We've been practicing that in our classrooms too, the breathing. So it's nice to hear that people use that in real life too. One of the other questions that we were thinking about is, we are a STEAM school, so that means we try to integrate the arts and technology and math. What kind of technology do you use as either a photographer or a dancer?
There's a lot of different things that I use. So for dance, let me go through each category. For dance right now, because we can't do so many physical classes, I take my daily classes on Instagram Live with my boss that has free classes every day, basically. So I'll watch the classes on there, and then I have a little space in my apartment that I'll take the class. So that's been one tool. And there's also classes on Zoom and other platforms, but I mostly use Instagram Live or Zoom. And then for choreography, there's a lot of different ideas that come in my head, and I like to jot them down. So I have this notebook where I jot down all of my chicken scratch writing, but it helps me organize and get my thoughts out. And I like to do a lot of sticky notes too if I have random thoughts, and then I throw them in my notebook so that when I'm choreographing, I have everything right there in front of me. For photography, I use Adobe Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop, and Final Cut Pro, sometimes Adobe Premiere. So those are some of the programs that I use. And then there's also, so I have my DSLR camera, and then on top of that, so that's for photography, obviously. And then I also do a lot of video as of late. So I have a gimbal, which is my new favorite toy. So basically you turn it anyway and it stabilizes everything. It even has a selfie mode. But it's really cool, and it helps me get super stable footage, professional grade, and then I just throw it in Final Cut Pro or Adobe Lightroom, or Premiere. And I think that's pretty much all of the technology and devices that I use for my work.
So do you want to talk, you want to talk about, like, I think sometimes kids, like when they think about what career they want to be when they grow up, they always say the same thing. Like they always say police officer, firefighter, or business person, or lawyer, or doctor, whatever. But I think a lot of people don't first think that the arts are something that you can do as a career. So I guess, do you have any words of wisdom about not being like afraid to sort of pursue those goals that let the creative side come out?
Yeah, I actually didn't always want to be a dancer. When I was in high school, I was battling between automotive engineering, becoming a car mechanic, and then I had just discovered this dance thing, and I, for the longest time, loved cars, still do. And I had this decision to make where I was like, well, you know, my dad really wants me to become an automotive engineer. He loves cars too. This dance thing is new, but I have such a passion for it. And, you know, my family didn't really understand so much about what it was, and it was new to me, but I knew that in my heart, it was something that I was really passionate about. And it made me feel more complete and happier inside. And it was challenging, and I had the support from my friends and my teachers at school. So I made the bold decision just to pursue it. And from there, with that hard dedication that I had and that perseverance, I had more and more support over time. And I think that it can be a non-traditional route, but I think it is absolutely 100% rewarding and worth it. Inside of being an artist and a dancer, photographer, you also learn so many invaluable skills, like how to be a teacher, how to be a leader, how to do time management, how to work in cooperative teams, how to work independently, how to describe your work, how to speak with articulation to a bunch of different students and things like that. So it has been a truly rewarding career for me, something that I used to watch tons of music videos growing up, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And here I am doing the same kind of thing where I'm a backup dancer for singers and all kinds of things, doing West Side Story. There's, if you put your mind to it, there's no reason you can't do it. So that's my biggest push there.
Do you ever make TikTok dances?
I am not on TikTok. I have a bunch of friends that are on TikTok. I also think that's a really great way. If you find that you really love doing those dances, go take a class or two. Look something up on YouTube, try a combo. There's so much dance out there. I love it.
Is there anywhere our students can see like a performance? Like, is there anything like a clip of you on YouTube or any other way of seeing a little bit of a performance?
There's a few videos on my website, josephahernandez.com. I don't think there's anything of the newer videos. A lot of the stuff that I've done is copyrighted, so I can't actually get the video. So like a lot of the operas and Broadway productions and things like that. I think that would probably be the best place.
Well, if you can do something, you can always forward it later. I have one more question. Maybe you could describe like what is a day in the life of your job, like in a normal circumstance, not during COVID, but like let's say you're doing a performance and the performance is on Friday and Saturday nights, but what do you do? Like what's a typical day for somebody who's a professional dancer?
Yeah, it varies a lot. It depends on the job and the contract. So let's say West Side Story, for example. So a day in the life of a dancer for the Broadway musical, I would wake up and take a dance class, probably at like 10 a.m. So that might be ballet or jazz or contemporary, something like that. And then after class is done, so about an hour and a half of class, you get like a 15-minute break. And then we would rehearse until maybe 5 o'clock. And then after that, you rest your body, eat a really nice, healthy dinner, and wake up and do it all over again. So it's pretty much a 9-to-5 full-time job where you wake up, you take a class, and then the rest of the day is spent rehearsing, where you're working on different sections. You're working on the ensemble pieces where you dance with everyone. You might work on a duet with one other person. So really just divvying up all the different sections that you have. So I think that's probably a typical dance day if for a full-time job. And then there's other contracts that are much smaller, where I might take class at noon or at 10, and then I have maybe a 3-hour slot of rehearsals in the afternoon. So I do that sometimes as well. And then for choreography and photography, that is much more open. So about this time last year, I made a choreographic piece, a commission for my university. So I went back, I had 3 days to create the piece. So ahead of time, I spent the whole week kind of building sections in my head in this trusty notebook. It's all in here. Drawing out the formations. This person's going to go here. This person's going to go here. Then they're going to make a big circle. So I notate all of that in the notebook, and then I show up and I say, okay, learn these steps. Okay, now we're going to do this in this formation. So that would take probably at least a week of preparation for those 3 days. And sometimes those things can be figured out in place. But those are typically 8 to 10 hour days in a commission that short. So there's a lot of variance, but I do keep very busy with all of those things.
Our students are learning about the design process, and so they've been planning, brainstorming ideas, which I assume you use your notebook for. You were talking about that. And then they sketched out their design, which you just mentioned, sort of drawing out where the people are going to be placed. And then I assume you reiterate and iterate once you see it in person, you make changes after you get feedback. And so I think it's really great to see that they use this design process in all different kinds of careers and activities. So I think that's really awesome that you described it just like that, because they're learning about that process. And I also, I think it's really wonderful that you were able to find something that you were really passionate about. And I think that makes, like you said, your joy of life, just happiness in what you're doing. And I think that's awesome. And I'm sure hopefully it will inspire some of our students. We have some arts high schools in Chicago that are always an option. And I think sometimes kids don't think of it as their first option. And it's really nice to see, somebody who's made a career out of the arts. Is there, you want to just mention maybe, I know that there are a lot of other careers around you when you do a production, like the person who does the lights and the sound. And I wondered if maybe you could mention some of the other people that are involved in putting on a production like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had excellent exposure to all of that when I went to Western Michigan University for my degree. They make you learn about all of that. They make you do all of it. So I took courses in lighting and staging, in pedagogy, which is teaching, kinesiology. So you learn how to be a teacher. You learn about the science that's in the body, the muscles, the bones, and lighting and staging. So when you are in a theater, there's the lighting designer that's building the entire map of all the lighting. And then there's all the stage crew. So there's the people that are hanging the lights, they're focusing them. There's a sound tech, and there's all these people that are making everything happen. There's prop masters. So there's so many things that are happening that you don't even see during a performance. People that are moving every single little object, making sure all the lights are on the right person, they're the right color, they're coming on at the right time. So yeah, there's all of the stage hands, the lighting designer, sound technician. And then on top of that, there's tour managers, people that are in charge of all the organization for everything that's going on tour, rehearsal director, someone that's making sure that the pieces are getting rehearsed accordingly and making sure that there's no big discrepancies or challenges that need to be fixed. I think, did that answer the question?
Yeah, and I would imagine there's a fashion designer with
Yes.
costumes, and maybe a makeup artist as well.
Yes, there's definitely a makeup artist, costume designer. Sometimes there's a couple of costume designers and assistants that help with that. So there's departments at the Lyric Opera House. There's floors of all of these people. There's floors for the whole tech crew. There's floors for the entire wardrobe. And makeup, there's wigs. It's an insane, crazy operation. There are so many people on board. So even if you don't want to be under the spotlights, but you still love the spotlights, you can be behind them. You can be helping the artists, the musicians, get all of their things in order as well. There's a big community aspect to it, which is really beautiful.
Do you have any suggestions for people who want to get into this but aren't quite sure, like as far as like maybe auditioning? I know that you went to college for this, but if there's other probably pathways into getting into the business.
Yeah, I think one of the best steps to take is just to get out there and try some classes, to figure out what you like. I started my first dance classes in my high school, and then during the summers I would go into the city and take a lot of different dance classes at the different schools. Giordano Dance School was one of them, just to kind of get my feet wet and figure out what do I like, what do I want to be doing in this field. So if you can get out there and just take some classes, maybe online right now, there's a lot of classes on Zoom. There's a lot of classes on YouTube. A lot of them are free. So I would encourage you just to try it. And, what's the worst that happens? You miss the step or something. You're like, okay, I'll just do the next one. And you're in the privacy of your own home, which is the nice thing about this right now. But yeah, just go for it. I've made a fool of myself time and time again. I've failed time and time again. I've gotten so many no's in my life, but I've still made a very wholesome, rich life that I'm very happy with, despite all of those challenges.
I'm wondering if you could actually say a little bit more about that. You said you got a lot of no's. I imagine you have to audition for lots of things. What happens if you don't get something that you were really excited about? Like, how do you pump yourself up to keep going?
I think that's one of the hardest things. No one likes to hear no when you've tried so hard and put your heart and soul into something. But the thing that I always remind myself is that this isn't the end, and there's always going to be the next time or the next thing. And I think I always try and take that as fuel to keep that fire going, to train harder, to do more research, to know exactly what I need to do, what steps do I need to take to make this happen next time around. And if not this one particular opportunity, the next one that's going to come up. So I think just having that ambition will absolutely make things happen in the long run.
Hi. So next week, our students will be engaged in an oratory competition. Do you have any words of advice for them?
Sorry, what kind of competition?
An oratory competition. They're just speaking. Some of them created their own poems or speeches. And so they're a bit nervous in regards to this. So do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Yeah, I would say rehearse, just practice over and over. Make sure you know what you're going to say, what you're doing, and just breathe. Remember to breathe. I think a lot of the times when we get nervous, we just hold our breath. I find myself doing that throughout the day sometimes, and I have to go, okay, Joseph, remember to breathe. It's okay. So just breathe, keep breathing, and make sure that you know what you've made, and trust yourself. I think that's one of the big things too, is trust yourself. We, as humans, we're so intelligent, and if we create something, it came from the heart, it came from your intelligent brains, and trust that, and just breathe, and it will work out. It will happen.
And what should the students do if they make a mistake? Because as a dancer, I know you've made plenty of mistakes, but what should the students do?
Get right back up and try again. Quick story, my very last show, I think it was the 34th show of West Side Story. There's only 6 people on stage. This is one of the beginning opening scenes. And there's this part where you're running, and then you kick your leg up super high, like maybe this high. And I was so excited because it was the last show. I kicked it so high that I landed flat on my back in front of 3,500 people. And I could have let that destroy me, but I said, no, it's fine. I got up really quick. I pretended like it was part of it, and I just kept going. So, mistakes happen, and we all know that. And I think that we end up looking into it more than we need to. We think that other people are judging us much more critically than is actually happening in real life. So just dust yourself off and try again. It'll be okay. We all make mistakes, and I think everyone understands that. So it'll definitely be all right.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I had a question. Okay, my question was about your classes. I know that my students, I'm the gym teacher, by the way. I know that my students were like, oh, when you went to school, you actually got to take gym classes. One of your classes were gym classes. And I was like, yeah, we actually took gym classes and they were so excited. So, I mean, you really got to take dance classes. What were your dance classes like in school?
Yeah, we had, I think we had dance 1 and dance 2, and we had different sections. And I know the reason I signed up for it was because I heard that you got to do hip hop in it, and I was like, okay, sweet, I want to be in a music video, let's do it. So I signed up, and we started with hip hop, but then there was also jazz and modern dance, and I was not sure if I wanted to do that. I was really shy. I was like, I want to be in the music videos, but I don't want to do all this other stuff. But I sucked it up and I tried it. I was like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm going to learn something that I didn't know before. So I just tried it and I loved it. And then I signed up for the next dance class, which was essentially the same kind of breakdown. I think it was like a section on jazz and hip hop and modern. But it was just a little bit more advanced steps. And I think one of the classes they made us run, I think it was made us run the mile, because there was like, you either had to take dance. We also had gymnastics. We were super lucky with that, or regular PE class. And I was lucky. I only had to take one semester of PE, and I only had to run the mile like twice throughout my whole high school career. I was really excited about that.
Did you find out that you liked any other dance that you didn't think you would ever like? I mean, you said you liked hip hop. Did you, in trying different other types of dance, did you find out, wow, I really like this other type of dance that I thought I would never like?
Yeah, ballet. Um, it was such a foreign world to me, but it was so challenging, I think, because the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about dance artists is that you are an athlete. Like, hands down, you're an athlete. It is a very, very challenging job. And if you watch what some of these ballet dancers do, it's crazy. It's crazy how high they can jump. The fact that some of these men are lifting human bodies over their head that are 140 pounds, just straight over their head, and then they're turning and carrying them. It's incredible. Sorry, what was the question? I got distracted with.
I asked, did you find out that there was a different type of dance that you didn't know?
Oh, yes.
Did you start out?
Ballet,
Yeah.
because of how challenging it was, and just the fact that there's all these patterns and rules that you have to follow, which it's much more strict than some of the other dance styles. And for me, that rigorous systemization was fascinating to me. It kind of spurred the analytical part of my brain, like the engineer part of my brain. And I just appreciated how challenging it was, and it gave me something to keep working towards. There was never really a place where I could settle, and I liked that. So ballet surprised me. I love it.
So will you relate that to like Kobe Bryant? And a lot of students do not realize this. Kobe Bryant also learned ballet. Is that a connection between ballet and basketball? Did that help him? Because you mentioned something about jumping higher.
Yeah, and I know a lot of football players also take ballet actually as well, because it is such a powerful way to move. You have to have your body in the correct alignment. You have to understand the balance between all of your limbs, and if you can figure out how to align the body and then bend down, and plie is the term we use to bend, and then you could jump up. It's just that much more efficient. So ballet essentially gives you a lot of different mechanics and ways of organizing your body to be more efficient, so that in the end, you can press someone over your head or jump that much higher. So there's definitely a huge, huge benefit to ballet, as well as all these other genres that just strengthen all parts of the body.
It sounds like there's actually kind of a lot of science in dance.
Absolutely. I had to take a kinesiology course, human anatomy, and I think that may have been my favorite course throughout all of college. And I'm actually looking at becoming a physical therapist in the future. Not right now, I have too many jobs right now, but eventually, just because of the science that goes behind it, and understanding how the body works and how everything's connected. And being a dancer, I've gotten injured over the course of my career, and I've received physical therapy and different rehab. And a lot of the times, something that's going on in my right knee could actually be coming from my right foot, or maybe even my left foot, because all the muscles and bones and ligaments are connected in a system that goes into the next one. So understanding just how the body is built and what the range of motion is just going to make you move that much more efficiently. Yeah, there's a lot of science behind it.
I would imagine there's a lot of math too. I mean, you're doing angles, your balance, you've got symmetry going on, and I'm sure the music angle of it comes in there where you have to do the beats and your movements toward the beats of the music. I'm sure in your choreography, the music comes into it a lot too. I think there's a lot of different STEAM angles that come into your job. I think it was awesome that you're very motivational. I think that everything that you said is going to be so motivating and engaging for the students. So we really appreciate your visit today and your time and your energy that you took to share about your career.